Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel with my coffee, with my books and my reviews, and we did have rain earlier today. I thought it might be a good stormy day all around, but the sun came out, so that's okay. We will enjoy that too. But we are talking about The Red Knot by Monique Asher, and let me just tell you, this book probably gave me a level of trauma that I did not expect. I did not read the summary beforehand, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. However, I did pick it up because it was horror. And I'm like, girl, I love a good horror book. Like, I love a good horror book, one that just creeps me out. I think this may have potentially crossed some lines for me into some of the content, but overall, the book is really good. And the ending surprising based on the way it starts. So let us dive into this particular book and go from there. Sip of coffee. Gripping, atmospheric, and off-putting, The Red Knot is perfect blend of occult mystery and small-town horror. On a tiny, isolated island off the southern Alaskan coast, three girls have vanished without a trace, and Audra's close friend, the island's therapist, has been found murdered. A recent storm has severed all communication with the outside world, leaving Audra, the town's lead detective, trapped and at the head of a very personal case. Her lead suspect, Valerie, the daughter of a notorious cult leader and the town's outcast, was discovered blood covered and dazed at a crime scene. Valerie's memory is a gaping void, a dark, well hidden traumatic a dark well hiding traumatic secrets, including the truth about the teenage kidnappings that haunt the island. As Audra digs deeper into the town's twisted history, it becomes clear other murders on the island, dating back decades, might be connected. The clock is ticking for the missing girls, and every clue leads Audra to question even those she's known her whole life. Valerie must confront horrors of her past, while Audra's investigation becomes a descent into madness. On this cursed island, the line between neighbor and nightmare blurs, revealing true horror that often wear familiar faces. It is considered horror, and I did have the audiobook. I saw audiobook. I was like, did I have the audiobook? Yes, I did. Mystery and fiction, and it is considered mystery thriller as well. Now, it is approximately 400 pages in paperback. I want to say the audiobook was somewhere around 11 hours, and the expected publication is August 26th of 2025. I have quite a few books that are due on or around the 26th, so I'm trying to get them. Well, I've kind of batch read them, so I'm also trying to do batch recordings as well, so I can stack up my episodes to come before Dragon Con, and that's next weekend. So I'm just scrolling down because, okay, this book started out as, okay, Valerie is driving and she's kind of zoning out. She's spacing out a little bit, and all of a sudden she realizes she's driving. She's almost driving towards this person head on, pulls off to the side of the road, and kind of fade to black. She kind of goes into an episode and fades to black. Well, at the same time, I want to say, is it Audra? Yeah, I think it's Audra and her daughter are driving, and she's the one that like Valerie almost head on collided with. But anyway, it's so you kind of think, okay, man, like what is going on in this small Alaskan town? And so one of my first clues for this being definitely horror, small Alaskan town that's isolated from the rest of the world. You kind of know that it's going to be something wild, and absolutely was. Now, Valerie seems to have, now it's never put into words, but seems to have what is referred to a lot as dissociative identity disorder, which is DID, which if I'm correct in just my understanding of what that is potentially, is the person has multiple personalities that reside within their mind. So Valerie seems to have multiple personalities. I think there's Valerie, there's Veronica, there's Nico, there's Val. There's a couple personalities in there that are, I mean, that pretty much are trying to almost protect her in various ways, because they seem to come out with when she is in danger or in trouble or overwhelmed and things of that nature. And so they do present themselves in different ways. If she, like, let's say she's in a police interrogation, Veronica may come out in order, because maybe Veronica is more I guess assertive, and so helps protect Valerie, who's maybe a little bit more weak, because you do see that Valerie seems to, she would put herself in prison and throw away the key. Like, she seems to be the type of person that would literally lock herself away in prison just to protect other people. And I don't think her other personalities really want that to happen. But anyway, maybe it would be for the best. I'm just saying. Now, it is set in this secluded Alaskan island, so I was not expecting the twists and turns we got, because there weren't a lot of points, and I'm trying to kind of be vague for the first like half of this episode, but you could definitely tell something was happening, that there were secrets that people weren't talking about. And so Audra is pretty much kind of the main police officer. She's not the chief of police, but she's definitely the lead investigator, lead detective on most cases. So when girls start going missing, one, people are kind of pointing fingers at Valerie, because they're like, well, her family was in a cult like when she was younger, and so she is like probably got something to do with it. But then Audra, being like the police person, they're blaming Audra as well for not solving this case, solving these murders. Where are the missing girls? Where are these missing people? And so there's a lot of anger, and in my mind, I'm just like, I don't know if I can deal with like this level of small town craziness. But anyway, so after Valerie pulls over on the side of the road, again, fade to black, later we find her more or less kind of covered in blood with scratches all over her, and she gets taken to the hospital. And she can't really remember anything, but she's able to convince the hospital that she's fine. I don't know how that happened, but she's like, no, I'm fine. These things happen. My therapist, like, go talk to my therapist. She's, she can vouch for me. Well, the thing is, at this particular point, Valerie doesn't seem to know, and nor does the hospital know, that her therapist is dead, laying on the floor of her own house, dead. So that's a whole question. It's like, well, did Valerie do it? Did someone else do it? Was Valerie even there? What happened? Why does Valerie have all these scratches on her and all this sort of XYZ? So there's a lot of questions. And of course, Audra is like, Valerie did it. Absolutely. She's the crazy one. And she starts to think, like, Audra has this detective with her, and he must have come from somewhere else, because he is not of this island, because you can tell when there are people of this island, they are all the crazy ones. Well, this particular detective is like, and Audra's talking to this detective, and she's like, man, I hate that girl. And he's like, why? And he's like, well, my mom hated her growing up. She's like, but why did your mom hate a kid? Like, just very confused. And Audra's like, that's a good question. Like, why is there so much hate around this girl when she was just a kid, when her family was doing all this really crazy culty stuff? And ultimately we find out that the Red Knot, which is the title of the book, was or is a cult that her father was a part of. And now, it seemed as though her father was probably pretty decent up until he joined this Red Knot. And then he became a religious zealot, where they did a lot of really bad things. And I'm talking like real, real bad. And so there should have been on my first page, now I don't think it was, but I needed a trigger warning for some of the stuff that we get described to us later on. That does not include the fact that there is kidnapping and murder and gore and, again, the mental health issues. But there is some body horror and there is some substantial other stuff, in my personal opinion, that I was just like, I needed to know. Like, I needed a little red flag that says careful, warning, something. Because I just didn't know what I was getting into. Now, we are getting down to the last few minutes of this episode, so I will start telling you a couple of the things that really kind of turned this book almost sideways for me, because I was really under the impression for a good chunk of this book that we were just dealing with crazy people, that we were dealing with that cult-like mindset. Okay, here's a spoiler. Spoiler if you don't want it. The monster's real. Guys, this has got some supernatural elements in it, and it's like Cthulhu-esque. That's where this thing went wild for me, because all of these things and the people involved, because you do not know who is a friend and who is an enemy in this book, many of them seem to be disciples of the great God or what have you. And I was blown away. That's one of the reasons I think I was so riveted. Once I got to that point, I was just like, what? Did we just go there? And we did. And we went there. And so that's where some of that, I guess, horror really kicks it up a notch, because not only are there terrible, terrible things being done, and you want to kind of think, oh man, these people are just absolutely pieces of shit. No. I mean, yes, they really, really are. But weirdly, there is an eldritch monster involved. Like, there is an eldritch deity eating people, like eating them. So just throwing that out there. Just letting you guys know that I think that's what kept me so riveted towards the end, like I said, because I didn't see that coming. Now, I figured there were going to be some twists and turns, and we definitely get some twists and turns that are of the human variety along the way. And again, do not trust anyone in this entire book. Like, there is, like, nobody to trust except for potentially, like, the girls who get kidnapped. Like, they seem fine. Like, Audra has a daughter named Ren, who's totally innocent. Like, she is totally just an innocent girl. But honestly, everybody else, like, they literally were all riding the fence of potentially just being... Now, I think Audra is presented well enough that we don't have to question if she knows anything or not. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been digging as much as she was. If she had known anything off the bat, then I don't think she would have acted in the way she did. So Audra's also fine. But everybody else, fully on the table. Fully on the table for being potentially cult crazies. And that is just my 2 cents about that. But I do see that some people were just not as, I guess, intrigued by this particular story. And I get it. Some of the content is really off-putting. And that is fair. So if they gave those ratings because the content was like literally WTF insane, then I get it. I really do. Because sometimes I don't know if I really want to be reading about certain things and then kind of have it like sneak up on me in an audiobook. I'm just like, what? Wait, what? And then I kind of want to fast forward because I just don't want to have to hear it. This one particular person, Megan, and it says Megan semi-hiatus, she said, it was very atmospheric and made me feel like I was almost there. I grew up in Alaska, which is what really led me into requesting this book. And her friends and her, when kids, loved making up creepy stories at sleepovers. So I thought this book could be fun and nostalgic. Yeah, I'm just going to say, if you grew up in Alaska and you like telling scary stories, this may not be the best thing for you. Also, if you grew up in a cult-like setting, this may either make your cult, potentially, seem better or worse. Just throwing that out there. Like, if you've actually encountered your cult's great deity, then one, I'm surprised, but two, also wow, still. And how does it compare to this eldritch deity? I'm just curious. But I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it here because I do think, even though I don't think I've spoiled anything too much, I think I've given you just enough to like maybe make it kind of intriguing for you to read. Yeah, this one kind of was a like out of nowhere read for me. I picked it up because I was like, oh, this horror book is an audiobook which I can finish in about maybe 2.5 days. And I did. And by the end of it, I was just like, jaw on the ground because I was like, really? Did we just go through all of that? What just happened? So, with all of that being said, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I hope you will. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.